At couples therapy, my wife asked if I'd forgive her for cheating. When I asked if it was hypothetical, she confessed to 2 affairs spanning 3 years. So I stood up, thanked the therapist, walked out, and found my attorney waiting in the parking lot that I used to think that the quiet moments in a marriage were the truest ones. Not the anniversaries, not the vacations, not the curated photos on our phones, but the evenings when the dishwasher hums, the cheap floor lamp flickers, and two people just coexist. That's the version of my life I walked into on the Thursday before everything fell apart. We had our weekly couples therapy session, not because we were on the brink of divorce, but because, her words, growth requires maintenance. She said that after every TED Talk she watched. And honestly, I didn't mind. I liked structure. I liked showing up, participating, doing the work. If someone had asked me that morning how my marriage was, I would have said, not perfect, but stable, manageable, familiar. Looking back, I think I liked the familiarity more than the person inside it. Our therapist, Dr. Dahl, had a habit of leaving these long, deliberate silences in sessions. She said she was letting the room breathe. My wife, Erin, hated the silences. She filled them too quickly, like someone afraid of what might surface if things got quiet enough. That day, she sat stiffly on the couch next to me, legs crossed too tight, her fingers worrying her necklace. It wasn't the necklace I gave her for our anniversary. It was the thin silver one she bought herself last year, the one I always thought looked new on her, like it belonged to someone else. We started with the usual check-in. Anything positive this week? Anything challenging? How's communication? I talked about work, my team switching to a new project management tool, the usual corporate shuffle. She mentioned feeling emotionally distant lately, which wasn't new. Erin had been describing some flavor of that for months, maybe years. Then Dr. Dahl said something about vulnerability, something about taking emotional risks. And Erin exhaled sharply, like she'd been waiting for that cue. If I told you I cheated, she asked, her voice strangely steady, would you forgive me? I genuinely thought she was asking a hypothetical. In therapy, hypotheticals are like salt, used constantly, sprinkled over every uncomfortable topic. So I gave a dry, honest answer. Is this hypothetical? Her breath caught. I heard it. A micro-flinch. And the breathing room Dr. Dahl always tried to create, suddenly felt suffocating. No, she whispered. It's not. There are moments you don't fully register until later. Moments your mind refuses to decode because the meaning is too sharp to touch. But there in the softness of that therapy office, surrounded by diffusers, beige furniture, and a framed quote about communication, the meaning landed. I felt my pulse in my teeth. How long? I asked. She folded in on herself, shoulders caving. 2 affairs. 3 years total. I remember blinking. Just once. Very slowly. Trying to reset reality like a frozen screen. The rest is fragments. Dr. Dahl leaning forward, hands clasped. Erin crying. But without tears, just those breathy little gasps people make when they're scared of consequences. My own voice sounding too calm, too even, like someone reading instructions off a card. Thank you, I said to the therapist. I stood. I collected my jacket from the chair. And I walked out. Not a slam of the door. Not a dramatic farewell. Just the quiet decision of a man who suddenly understood the last 3 years of his life had been mislabeled. I think Erin thought I was bluffing, that I'd circle the parking lot, breathe into my hands, come back inside for the real conversation. She chased me out, calling my name with this rising panic in her voice. And then she saw him, leaning against the hood of my car like he'd been waiting for a meeting. My attorney. Her sprint slowed into a confused half-step. Why is he here? She asked. Voice cracking. I didn't answer. Not then. Because the truth was, I hadn't known she was cheating, but I had known something was wrong. And I had come prepared for whatever that something turned out to be. Erin stopped a few feet away from me in the parking lot, like she'd reached an invisible boundary. My attorney, Mark Langford, stood quiet, hands in the pockets of his navy coat. He didn't look at her. He looked at me with a simple nod that meant I'm here, you lead. I'd hired him 3 weeks earlier. Not because I thought she was cheating. God, even now I'm not sure I believed that about her until she said it aloud, but because I'd noticed a pattern, a slant, a slow tilt of my marriage into something I couldn't balance on anymore. I hadn't told Mark what I feared, only that something didn't add up in our finances, that there had been two near-maxed credit cards I didn't recognize, that she'd started taking private yoga sessions twice a week with a trainer I'd never met. And, more recently, the way she'd started insisting we keep our finances independent for a while so I can feel autonomous. He'd asked casually, "Do you suspect infidelity?" And I'd replied, equally casually, "I don't know what I suspect. I just want to be ready if things go sideways." A strange thing happens when people think you're oblivious. They leave the truth lying around like laundry. In the parking lot, Erin kept looking between us. Me, Mark, the car, like she was trying to solve an equation with too many unknowns. "What is going on?" she asked, voice trembling. "Why is your lawyer here? Why did you walk out?" "Because you confessed to two affairs," I said softly. "And I'm not going back in there to process the emotional aftermath of your choices." She shook her head rapidly, hair sticking to her damp cheeks. It wasn't like that. I wasn't going to hide it forever. I wanted us to fix the foundation first." "The foundation?" I repeated. "Erin, you set fire to the foundation and then scheduled therapy." "Can we please talk privately?" she said, eyes darting to Mark again. "No," I answered. "Private conversations are how we got here." Something passed across her face then. Panic, recognition, maybe the dawning reality that she wasn't steering this conversation anymore. We didn't argue in the parking lot. That surprised me. I expected a scene, tears, shouting. Erin wasn't prone to melodrama, but fear changes people's chemistry. Instead, she quieted, clasping her hands together like she was trying to hold herself inside her own skin. "I didn't mean for it to go on," she whispered. "Either of them. That makes it better?" I asked. "No, but it's true. The thing about betrayal isn't the moment you learn about it. It's the retroactive rewriting of your life." Standing there, I began replaying the last 3 years like a corrupt video file, glitching memories, flickering overlaps. The night she claimed she had a late meeting and came home smelling like citrus shampoo she never used. Her sudden interest in running. Morning jogs she never invited me to join. The weekends she spent at her sister's that always seemed slightly too long. Her phone, face down, always. The time I asked to borrow her laptop, and she flinched so fast I thought she'd hurt herself. The way she would cry in therapy about feeling disconnected, while I sat there thinking we were just stuck in a normal mid-marriage rut. I thought we were patching drywall. She'd been living in a different house entirely. Mark stepped slightly closer. "We can head out," he said calmly. "Let's give her space." Erin's eyes widened. "Are you serious? You're lawyering up right now." "I already did," I said. "Weeks ago." Her hands dropped. That stunned expression, the kind people get when they realize they're not the only one holding a secret. "You knew?" she asked, voice barely audible. "No," I said. "But I knew enough to stop trusting the story you were telling me." She let out a sound, half sob, half laugh. "God, you're so cold right now." "Cold," I echoed. I think I finally hit the temperature of reality. When I got into the car, she stepped toward the door, palms open, pleading silently for me to stop. I didn't. Not to be cruel, but because staying would have been worse. As Mark and I drove away, I didn't look back. But I could feel her in the rearview mirror anyway. Small, shaking, and 3 years too late. Mark drove us back to my place, the quiet suburban house I once thought of as neutral territory. Now it felt like a crime scene, one where I still didn't know the full list of charges. We didn't talk much in the car. Mark wasn't the type to fill silence. He waited, let clients arrive at their own gravity. By the time we pulled into my driveway, I felt that gravity pressing down on every inhale. "You ready for the next step?" he asked. "No," I said, "but let's do it anyway." He nodded. That was enough. Inside, the house was exactly as I'd left it in the morning. Coffee mug in the sink, my jacket draped over the dining chair. A normal day's debris, but it all felt like props from someone else's life. Mark took a seat at the table, flipping open a folder thicker than I expected. "You've been gathering documentation like I told you?" he asked. I slid over the small stack of items I'd collected over the last month. Screenshots of odd bank transfers. A picture of a gym membership I didn't know she had. A copy of her mileage log from our shared car, which she thought I never checked. The phone records showing repeated calls to a number not saved under any name. Mark skimmed the papers with a professional neutrality that made the whole situation feel both real and surreal. "You've done well," he said finally. "You gave yourself options." Was I overreacting? I asked, surprising myself with the question. He shook his head once. No, you were preparing. Later that night, Aaron started texting. A lot. At first, the messages were frantic. Aaron, please come home. Aaron, we need to talk. Aaron, I'm begging you. Don't do this with a lawyer in the middle. Aaron, please, please don't leave me like this. Then guilt tripping. Aaron, you blindsided me. I messed up, but you blindsided me. Aaron, how long have you been plotting this? Aaron, you can't just walk out of therapy like that. It's cruel. Then anger. Aaron, is this what you wanted? For me to be the villain? Aaron, you're not perfect either. You think you didn't hurt me? Aaron, I cheated because I felt nothing from you for years. Then she circled back to fear. Aaron, please pick up. I feel like I'm dying. Aaron, I don't know where you are. Aaron, please. I'm alone in the parking lot. I didn't answer. Not out of cruelty, but because we were past the point where words could fix anything. Silence is a kind of truth too. Around 11 p.m., she tried calling. Mark, who was still there, part lawyer, part quiet anchor, looked at the caller ID and asked, "You want to take it?" I hesitated, then nodded. Put it on speaker. I pressed answer. Her voice came through thin and shaking. Can you please just tell me where you are? I'm safe, I said. Are you at home? Yes. A pause. Can I come over? No. A sharp inhale. I need you to hear me out. I need to explain. You already explained. 2 affairs. 3 years. That's not the whole story. I'm sure it isn't, I said. But that's all I need to know right now. She exhaled, voice cracking. I'm not a monster. No, I said softly. You're just someone who did monstrous things. Mark's eyes flicked toward me at that, but he stayed silent. Please, she whispered. Please don't leave me. I closed my eyes. Aaron, I already left the room. I'm just catching up emotionally. She started crying then. Real crying. Messy crying. And for the first time that day, I felt something. Not love, not anger, but the sudden exhaustion of someone carrying a broken thing that finally shattered. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. I know, I said. But sorry doesn't undo years. The line went quiet for a moment. Then, in a smaller voice, is there someone else? Is that why you had a lawyer? No, I answered. There's no one else. I just stopped trusting you before I even knew why. She hung up after that. Or maybe the call dropped. Either way, the silence that followed felt final. When I turned to Mark, he simply said, "We'll proceed in the morning. For now, try to sleep." But sleep wasn't what came. What came was the slow, dawning understanding that marriage ends twice. First in the heart, then on paper. And Erin had already ended hers long before she confessed. Update 1. I didn't sleep that night. Not in the cinematic way, staring at the ceiling, dramatic shadows, heavy sighs. No, my body simply refused to shut down. My brain kept running diagnostics on everything I'd ever believed about my marriage. Around 6 a.m., I finally dozed off on the couch for what felt like 10 minutes. When I opened my eyes again, there were 27 unread messages on my phone. Most were from Erin. 1 was from her sister, 2 from my mother, 1 from a number I didn't recognize. I started with Erin. The messages were scattered. Erin, I didn't sleep. I need you to talk to me. Erin, I'll meet you anywhere. Erin, please don't make big decisions without hearing everything. Erin, I told my sister. She's freaking out. Erin, I'm going to lose everything. Please don't let this happen. Erin, I love you. I love you more than anything. Erin, I'm sorry. You know my childhood. I panic when I feel abandoned. Erin, are you with someone? Just tell me the truth. Erin, please. Please answer. I didn't reply. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because clarity requires distance, and she didn't leave me any room for breath. Her sister's message was short. Sister, I don't know what happened between you two, but please don't destroy her. She's fragile. Fragile. The word made something inside me twist. Everyone was worried about her fragility. No one seemed to be considering the explosion she dropped in my lap the day before. My mother's messages were typical. Mom, call me when you can. Mom, everything okay? Mom, is this about Erin's disconnecting phases she used to talk about? I ignored those too. I didn't have the bandwidth to parent my own mother's anxieties. The last message, the unknown number, was the one that hit me hardest. Unknown, this is Daniel. I think she told you about us. I'm sorry. Unknown. If you need to talk or want transparency, I'm willing. Unknown. I didn't know she was married at first. Daniel. Affair number 2? Or was he number 1? I didn't even know. I stared at his messages for a long time, not out of curiosity, but because there was something so painfully civilized about it. A stranger apologizing for walking into the minefield my wife built. Mark arrived around 9 a.m. He had coffee and a small binder. "You ready?" he asked gently. "Define ready." He didn't smile, but his eyes softened. "Functional is enough." We made a plan, not a dramatic divorce declaration, not burning down the house or throwing her belongings on the lawn. A structured, calm, step-by-step action plan. First, he said, you create distance. 2 weeks minimum. No in-person meetings without me present. Second, you request full disclosure of her relationships. Names, durations, timelines. We'll compare to the documentation you've already gathered. Third, you control the financial narrative. Freeze joint discretionary accounts. Monitor shared cards. Change passwords tied to your personal credit. It felt cold, clinical, surgical. It also felt like breathing fresh air after months in a room with a gas leak. At noon, Aaron showed up at the house, not knocking politely, pounding. I didn't open the door. Instead, I spoke through the security camera's mic, calm, contained. "Aaron, you need to leave." Her voice cracked. "Please don't do this. Let me inside. Let me explain. We'll communicate through email. My attorney will be copied." "You're serious?" she whispered. "Yes." She covered her mouth, shoulders shaking. "I made mistakes. I made terrible mistakes. But we can still fix this." I almost believed her desperation, until she said, "You don't understand what I gave up for you." And just like that, my sympathy collapsed. Because affairs aren't sacrifices. They're choices. Repeated ones. "Go home," I said. "We'll talk in writing." She left eventually, sobbing into her hands as she walked down the driveway. I didn't watch her go, but I heard it. The small, echoing sound of someone realizing the consequences were real. That evening, I finally opened Daniel's messages and wrote, "Me, I don't want details right now, but I appreciate the honesty. Me, she told me about the affairs yesterday. Me, I just need the truth going forward." He replied immediately, "Daniel, if you need a timeline, I'll give you one. And I'm sorry." Honestly, his apology felt cleaner than anything Aaron had said in months. That's when it hit me. Everyone else was giving me more truth than the person I married. And truth is the only currency that matters when everything else collapses. Final update that it's been 6 weeks. Not long enough to heal, whatever that means, but long enough for the world to rearrange itself into something quieter, colder, and, strangely, more honest. People keep asking the same question. "Are you okay?" And I keep giving the same answer. "I'm functioning." Because functioning is all I can promise right now. I did eventually take Daniel up on his offer to give me a timeline. We met at a small coffee place 2 towns over. Neutral ground. I recognized him immediately, not from any photo, but from the look on his face. Guilt ages people. He told me everything calmly, like someone who'd practiced the truth long before saying it aloud. His affair with Aaron lasted 14 months. The other affair, the one before him, lasted nearly 2 years. Different man, different context, same pattern. There was no dramatic passion, no cinematic love story behind it. Just loneliness, impulsivity, and her need for validation that I didn't even know she was starving for. He said something that stuck with me. "She talked about you like you were the stable thing she didn't want to lose. But she also said she needed excitement." I didn't understand those could coexist. Neither did I. When he finished talking, he apologized again. Not performatively. Just a man trying to take responsibility for his part in someone else's disaster. I told him I appreciated the honesty. Because at that point, honesty was the rarest commodity in my life. Her emails came in waves. Long ones first, pages of explanation, emotional excavation, childhood references, therapy language she wielded like a shield. Then shorter ones, broken sentences, please, promises. Then the quiet ones, just a subject line, no body. "Can we talk? Please. I'm losing you." Eventually, she stopped asking for reconciliation and began asking for understanding, which, ironically, was the one thing I couldn't give her. She also sent a letter, a handwritten one. I opened it because paper forces a different kind of attention. In it, she said she didn't cheat because she didn't love me, but because she couldn't stand feeling ordinary. She said I made her feel safe, but safety scared her. Routine scared her. The quiet parts of life scared her. And so she chased chaos in secret, then came home and cried about disconnecting, hoping the guilt would pull her back toward me. The letter didn't make me angry. It just made me tired. Some people break things because they're broken. Some break things because they're terrified of breaking. I still don't know which one she is. Maybe both. Mark filed the preliminary paperwork. Not a scorched earth divorce. Not revenge. Just boundaries. The hardest part wasn't signing the documents. It was seeing our marriage summarized on paper. Irreconcilable differences. Such a sterile phrase for something that cracked me open. We divided accounts. We untangled finances. We agreed on property. She didn't fight anything. Not out of dignity, I think, but out of recognition. She knew I was done. Not angry. Not burning. Just done. There's a special kind of finality that comes when trust dies. It leaves no ashes. Just empty air. People assume betrayal makes you bitter. But in my case, it made me quieter. I don't trust my instincts the way I used to. I second-guess myself more. I check patterns twice, motives 3 times. It's like learning to walk again, but on uneven ground. I've started therapy on my own now. Not to move on. That phrase feels cheap. But to understand how I tolerated the fog for so long without naming it. My therapist said something last week that landed deep. You're grieving not just the loss of the marriage, but the loss of the version of yourself who believed in it. And she's right. That part stings more than anything Erin did. Erin moved out last week. She left her keys on the counter and sent me a short message. I hope someday you'll remember the parts of us that were real. I didn't answer. Not because the message was manipulative. Not because I was cold. But because some doors close without a sound. And opening them again, even for closure, just lets the cold back in. The truth is, we did have real parts. We had good years. We had moments of connection that weren't fake. But good moments don't cancel out choices. And the choices she made built a world I never consented to live in. So now I'm building a quieter one. A smaller one. A more deliberate one. It's not happy. Not yet. Maybe not for a while. But it's honest. And after everything, honest is enough.